What's up, YouTube? I'm back yet again with our weekly analysis for the pairs for the week ahead. So for this week, we're going to be looking at gold, that is XAUUSD. We're going to analyze BTCUSD, and finally we are going to look at NASDAQ or NAS 100. So yeah, let's get right into it and see what we have. So we can start with the gold, but first these are the pairs that we're going to look at for this week. And then maybe if time allows us, we will also look at Euro USD. So that's our watch list for this coming week, and we can get started with gold. So gold on the daily time frame, we can see that it's been in some sort of a range or consolidation for a while for the past few days. However, on Friday we have a rally that pushed all the way up. We've been in some sort of a range, as you can see. It's been playing around that zone. So now, first of all, as a price action trader, the first thing that we do is we're going to mark our key levels. That is, some people call them support and resistance. So we are going to mark our support and resistance first on the daily time frame. So we will start with marking our key levels, like okay, let's start with our resistance line. Support, we can have this zone where our break and retest occurred. Then we can also have this zone, since it was tested so many times by this impulse correction, break, retest, and then finally we are trading above the support. So we can have our highest point at this level. I normally use red for my psychology so that we look for sales when the market gets to that area. And then of course the most recent one is this one that we are marking right here, because it's currently the market is reacting to it, so we can have it in red for our psychology to look for sales. So on 4 hours, that is what we have, and from the look of things we might continue going up. But right now we have this break from the resistance line with a volume on Friday. So most probably, if the momentum continues, then we are going to have our rally going on for the week. Yeah. So we can go down to 4 hours and see clearly what is happening. In our 4-hour chart, we do not have a lot going on except for this rally, and then we had a break above our resistance line with a full body close or a huge volume. So that means the buying pressure was a bit high on Friday. So we can have a retest to our resistance, which stands to our support, and then have a continuation all the way up as one scenario, or we can have a rally all the way to our, or we can have a break below the support and then retest, or maybe clear confirmation, then we have a sell all the way to this point. Yeah. Alternatively, we can have a push all the way to our, our high point, the highest point for the week. That is, you can have a push all the way to level, last week we had some sort of impulse correction. So maybe since we had an impulsive move before the market closed, we can have some sort of small correction to our resistance line, which has now turned to our support. We can denote it with the blue line, but we can, I'm seeing gold correcting slightly below to this level before we have our continuation up. But who knows, maybe we might have a continuation all the way up, so we have to wait until the market open to see clearly. So on our 1 hour chart, currently we do not have the most probable direction since we are almost to the middle, but I'm looking to take buys from this point all the way up. Alternatively, we can have gold pushing all the way to the resistance line, and then we have a small drop coming up, yeah, or we can have a push and then a break above the line and then continuation to the upside. But right now, the most probable direction that we're going for is for buys, but just from our support line. Yeah, we can have our buys around this region, but then we have to wait for the market open and wait for a drop towards this zone, then we can have our continuation up. That is it on gold. That is what I'm looking to do on gold. So we can go ahead and look at the other pairs. Now we can look at NASDAQ or NAS 100 and see what we have. We might want to start from the daily too, so that we can see what is happening, or maybe 4 hours, but the daily serves more. And then you can see the NASDAQ has also been in some sort of maybe range. It's not been trending as much for the past few days, so we have this consolidation that was happening around this area for the better part of last week. So now the much we can do on the daily is to mark our key levels or to mark our support and resistance. So we can have that as our resistance line, and then we can have our support line. Slightly the most recent one, we can use this point. And then we can use from the daily, we can see we have something like a head and shoulder. So we have the left shoulder, the head, and then the right shoulder is forming, and then the last candle was a red candle. So if it's closest to the full body the way it did, then it means the next direction for NASDAQ is we're going to go down to maybe the nearest support line. So from that itself, we already know that on NASDAQ we are going to look for sales for the better part of this week. If you go to 1 hour, you can already see the drop had already happened, but still there is some correction happening. And then there is also this pattern that is forming. We call it bearish flag. Yeah, so this is a reversal pattern. We can see, you can extend your line all the way here, but we can have it at this point so that it touches the majority. So that is the pole, and then this is the flag. And then we have reaction occurring from that resistance line, and then we have this order block right here. So we might want to wait and take ourselves from this order block right here. And of course, our take profit should be all the way down, and our stop loss slightly above the pattern or slightly above the zone, like this. So that is what I'm looking forward to on NASDAQ. I'm going to look for sales. So that was an impulsive move. So maybe some sort of correction, or before we have NAS going all the way down. We also have some break of structure happening on the 4 hours. As you can see, we had a break, retest, and Now it is retesting that zone. So if you go to smaller time frames, you can see that the movement is already on, and you can see there was some correction happening around that zone. Then we will eventually have our drop from this area all the way down, and our stop loss slightly above the zone, So as you can see, you can go to 1 hour, and that is what we have for NASDAQ. I'm looking forward for sales only. But then this is just subject to change. We have to wait for the market open and see what will really happen before we can take our trades or make a decision. Yeah. So there we are. We can see some sort of correction happening after the impulsive move. So the impulse, correction around that area, impulse, and then correction around this area. So maybe the next leg will be an impulsive move to our next support line, which will be affecting as our resistance. So that is it for NAS 100. Finally, let's look at BTCUSD. For this, we will start at 4 hours, and then immediately we open our 4-hour chart. We can zoom so that we can have our support and resistance marked. So we can have this zone to act as our support, and this one, because it is retested so many times. And then finally we have our resistance line above this area. And then now we zoom to the part that we are more interested in, which is the most recent price action. So we have impulse, correction. So we have some sort of correction happening, but then there is some break of structure that occurred around this area, and then there was retest happening there. So you can already see there was this bearish engulfing pattern that has formed, and or you can say there was tweezer tops that formed around that area. So right now you can take your sales just from that alone, and then maybe you take profit to the next low, since Bitcoin is more volatile, but you can extend it all the way down if you are a little bit more patient. And just from that simple quick overview, we can see that Bitcoin is on a downtrend, and eventually at some point this week, maybe Monday or Tuesday, we will have a drop all the way to 107. Okay, so on 1 hour we can see a pattern forming, impulse, correction, and then we have this pattern forming around here. We call it a rising wedge from this point to this. And then we have this point to this point. Yeah, and then finally we can have some, that was impulse, correction, impulse, correction, impulse. So maybe that's also another correction before we finally have a drop all the way down. So we can have our sales from this point, and then have our take profit to the nearest low or extend it all the way down. Yeah, and our stop loss, of course, to be slightly above the zone like this, but to be safe, we can have our first take profit around that area, since Bitcoin is more volatile for this. But I'm seeing Bitcoin trading to maybe below 107k for this week. So yeah, that is it on the 3 pairs that I have on my watch list for this week, and I wish you all the best in this trading week. And please click the link in the description to open a trading account if you do not have one, and like the video, share, and subscribe to my channel if you love this type of content, because I will be dropping more of them and even more deeper insights on a weekly basis. Yeah, so that is it, and cheers. See you in the next video.